Alright, what's going on, guys? It is that time again. Time when we've gone through the past few major FromSoftware releases. Armored Core 6 has come and gone, Elden Ring is over and done, and now we gotta look to the future. But what's interesting about this time specifically is that we literally know nothing about what's next. For about the past 5 years or so, we've had a pretty good idea at what FromSoftware was working on. Elden Ring leaked years ahead of time, as did Sekiro. Armored Core 6 was hinted at for a long while, but now we're almost completely in the dark. However, it seems like that's about to change, because we have quite a bit to talk about today. Some semi-credible leaks that have come out about the new codename for FromSoftware's next game, as well as some official hints by Hidetaka at what's coming down the pipe. And trust me guys, things are looking pretty good. And we're gonna break down absolutely everything we know today. But of course, as we begin, if you want to stay up to date on all things FromSoftware and Souls-likes, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on anything. And now let's begin. Starting off today, we gotta do a bit of business analysis, taking a look at the latest Hidetaka financial report. Now, for those of you that are unaware, Hidetaka is the parent company that owns FromSoftware, and they are a very large corporation that own a lot of different media companies, but FromSoftware is their primary gaming company. Now, every quarter of the fiscal year, they put out consolidated financial reports and presentations containing information about how the company's doing and outlooks for the future. Now, it's important to keep in mind that these are not written for the fans, they're not written for us, these are created for investors of Hidetaka. However, if you know what to look for, oftentimes we can glean some pretty good information from these. And this one has some fascinating stuff in it. Now, before we dive into the things concerning FromSoftware specifically, we gotta talk about the fact that Hidetaka has been the victim of a major ransomware attack for the greater part of a year now, which resulted in a lot of personal data leakage for many of the employees and business data relating to some of their other segments. Now, Hidetaka has broken down exactly what was leaked, and it appears that FromSoftware was spared from that. However, we don't know with 100% certainty. And while as fans of the game, it's always exciting to get new information about what could be coming, but this is in no way something that should get you excited, as a lot of people's livelihoods are at risk because of this leak, and it is extremely illegal. Fortunately though, Hidetaka seems to be back in full operation, and it has since been resolved, at least from what I can see. Which is why here on the channel, if we ever do cover leaks, even potential ones such as what we're going to talk about later on in this video, it is always after they are already public information. So it's good to just keep that in mind. Now, the section of the report talking about FromSoftware and their gaming segment details that of course the majority of their sales came from Elden Ring's DLC, as we already know, and even though we are not getting any more game content for Elden Ring, they are still striving to maximize the lifetime value of the IP. Now, what does that mean? Well, there are rumors of an Elden Ring TV show, however we haven't heard anything new about that, and if their track record's anything to go by, well, we've got about 4 or 5 different Elden Ring mangas already out, so who knows how that could manifest. But the part of the report that was really interesting and caught a lot of people's eyes was this right here. The future outlook on IP creation, games, and films. And let's look at what the gaming section has to say. Expand the game development pipeline, achieving a structure where the group is able to constantly release new games by steadily expanding the development and publishing pipeline. Now, as you can see there, Hidetaka owns 4 different studios that make console games. FromSoftware, Spike Chunsoft, Gacha Gacha Games, and Acquire, whom they just recently acquired, no pun intended. But look there on the right, under this umbrella of console games, they say there are 20 titles in development. So let's do a bit of math here. Obviously, FromSoftware is one of 4 companies that make console games for them. Now, we don't currently know how often Acquire Corp is going to be releasing games, but since they joined back in December, they've released 1. Gacha Gacha Games has released 2 in the last year. However, there's a pretty big gap since their last one. We can expect another to release pretty soon. Spike Chunsoft seems to pump games out pretty frequently, with 3 releases in the past year, and FromSoftware of course had Armored Core 6 and Elden Ring DLC. Now, if we just break that down into fractions and percentages, we could realistically be looking at FromSoftware working on 5 different games at the moment. Now, that's probably best case scenario, but there's a few things we have to consider. After the release of Dark Souls 3's final DLC, FromSoftware was managing to work on 3.5 games at the same time. We now know that those games were Sekiro, Elden Ring, Armored Core, and Deracine. But since that time and the insane success of Elden Ring, they've been hiring a ton of new employees, and even managing to increase the base salary at the studio. So if we compare that size now to what they were back then, I don't think it's unrealistic at all that they could be making 5 games at once, and remove the variable of the impact the pandemic had on them back then as well. So I think it's fair to say we're about to be eating really good as FromSoftware fans. Now, I'm personally under the impression that we could be seeing annual releases from them from here on out, and this seems to me like it's even more likely after having this information. But what do you guys think? Do you think 5 games is too much for them to handle at once? Or could it even be more? For now, only time will tell, but I think we got a lot of FromSoftware games to look forward to in the future. But now let's talk about what one of those games could potentially be. Now, like I said earlier, we know absolutely nothing about what's next. There's been a lot of speculation, but nothing concrete even hinting at what it could possibly be. Now, admittedly, this isn't much, but it could potentially be our first look and sign that people know something. And this comes from a leaker known as Kurakasis. Now, I've never heard of this person, but I did look into them, and they do seem to be fairly reliable, having leaked several titles early. But of course, as always when talking about stuff like this, always take it with a grain of salt. But here's what they had to say. Something that FromSoftware was working on before the release of Elden Ring DLC had the codename CL. I haven't found any info suggesting that Elden Ring DLC has a different codename than the base game, that of course being Great Rune, so it's possible that CL is a new FromSoftware game. So like I said guys, it ain't much, but we can work with this. Now I wanted to let this marinate for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? See if people would debunk this or if they would come out and say that they didn't actually know what the codename was. As far as I can tell and as I could find, I couldn't see that it was debunked, but at the same time I'm not sure how they would have this information and nothing to go along with it. But if it is true, then what could CL stand for? Well, I don't know, I've been kind of racking my brain about this, and I don't have any really good ideas. We could sit there and throw adjectives and nouns together all day, and there would be no possible way to know if we're on the right track or not, but I would be more interested in finding specific phrases that have CL, and I just ran that through ChatGPT and it came up with a few that I'll put on screen now, ones that were frequently used in antiquity. And like I said, there's no way to know until we actually get real information about what the codename is, but I think it's fun to speculate about this stuff, and we can create some ideas from potential CL phrases. So y'all let me know some down in the comments below. What do you think this could mean if it is real, and what kind of game do you think it'll be? We talked about this quite a bit in the last video, just going through speculation, but I think it is fun that now in this time, we know literally nothing. And to me, this kind of time period is the most fun because we get to find these clues and piece things together, but we won't know until any official announcements if they were real or not. But of course, if we do hear anything, I'll be keeping you guys up to date here on the channel, so be sure to be subscribed. With all that though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it, and I will catch you in the next one.